Following the announcement by Pastor Jones of the Dove Center that he was going to burn a Koran as directed by God, the Right Reverend Leo Friday of the Southeast Florida Episcopal Diocese wrote a letter saying that God's greatest commandment is love, and the burning of a Koran was not within Christian values. The Episcopal men of St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, invited the American Muslim and journalist C.B. Hanoff, who had been with the Palm Beach Post for many years, for an open interfaith dialogue. The meeting went on for over an hour, and this video represents highlights, but was not edited to represent any particular point of view.
I honestly can think of no better introduction for CB than to quote two comments to the Palm Beach Post comment page after the Post announced last month that CB had joined the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office as its first Muslim chaplain. The first comment stated, and I quote exactly, "What the hell do we have a Muslim for? Whose bright idea was it to have that weirdo and pay his salary when the PBSO is already cutting services to law-abiding American county citizens? Deport this terrorist back to where he came from, and his family and friends too. American citizens do not want their kind here." Sorry to sound like a racist, but this is just way overboard. Signed, M.E. Another comment, two down, stated, "I am proud to be the daughter of the first volunteer, in caps, Muslim chaplain in Palm Beach County. I wish that more people would take time to do some research on the local Muslim community and Muslims in general. Instead, most listen to the hate and propaganda that is perpetrated by the media. Islam is a religion of peace. I am hurt and saddened by all the racist and hateful comments. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. Dad, I love you. You are a wonderful person and a shining example. Ayize Hanif." Before I turn the meeting over to CB, I do have one other comment. CB is no longer gainfully employed, but he still has expenses. He will be remaining after this meeting to offer some of his books and DVDs for sale to those of you who may be interested. Also, although marksmen do not offer honorarium, we do offer the opportunity for those of you who might like to contribute a bit of cash toward his ongoing expenses. Here is a plate for that purpose. CB, welcome again, and the meeting is yours.
Thank you, Bob. And good morning, marksmen. Wow, we used that PBSO salary that guy was talking about. We always begin with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. I'm going to try to follow my script here, but I just want to say it's an honor and a pleasure and a blessing to be back here at St. Mark's, particularly to share some thoughts. This is a priority in my life. I guess you kind of figured that out. Although I continue to write and edit to supplement my income, I write for the Coastal Star newspaper as a freelancer. I'll come back to that if time allows. Some of you know I took the buyout from the Palm Beach Post after 22 years as the news ombudsman for the paper. I was on the editorial board, wrote columns weekly, edited the letters page for a couple of stints. I'm still writing and editing because I love it, and I think I have a lot to share and that I ought to share, but I know no more important work than this interfaith work. The Muslim is obligated to recognize his responsibility to all the communities of man. He cannot forget that in promoting his own cause. He must have a healthy regard for the destiny of other people. He must also contribute to the worthwhile and noble endeavors of others. The Muslim is to support, compliment, congratulate, and feel happy about the progress of others who are not of his religion. This kind of attitude is healthy for anybody, and it is an obligation for Muslims. That's Imam W.D. Muhammad speaking in his book, African American.
As someone who's been involved in the media and so forth, do you feel that Could you say a little bit about the coverage? Because for me, I just get enormously frustrated by the fact that much of what you've just said is, as you say, new news, if you will. And I just wondered, did you run into that in your own experiences with media?
I still do. You know, we just found out 2 weekends ago, was it? Or maybe it was a week. Maybe it was two weekends ago, right? So we just found out from the New York Times that on the 17th floor of the
Right.
South Tower, there was a mosque. You can call it a prayer, you know, well, if we're going to call it the mosque at Ground Zero, we ought to say that they had a mosque. And in the other tower, the restaurant workers had a mosque, if you will, in the stairwell outside the restaurant where they were. So there were 2 mosques at Ground Zero. And after all this commotion, and I think media misreporting,
Yeah.
suddenly our most liberal news organization in the world tells us, actually, well, they had that going on. So how can you, I mean, I was news ombudsman for our newspaper, as you know, that many of you know. I remember when I left the post, I was the longest serving news ombudsman in the world. And I remember when I first joined the group, the first couple meetings, we would have meetings where folks would say, why doesn't the New York Times have an ombudsman? And our secretary and president would say, well, I talked to, was it Solzberg, I think was the name of the editor? And he said, well, if the readers have a problem with the coverage in the New York Times, they ought to call me. And try to call the editor of the New York Times and get him on the phone this morning. If you do, I'll give you whatever you all raise to kind of support me in my... I guess I'm saying that I'm very disappointed with our news organizations. I think a lot of people would agree that the pastor over there in Gainesville really kind of yo-yoed the media around. But I'm mostly concerned about the lack of just good, solid, basic information being provided. I have tremendous confidence in our people. Give us good information, and we're going to kind of make it.
You've just hit on probably the most significant part of a lot of the controversy is that currently bad news sells newspapers, sells TV viewing, and everything else. The message that you're bringing is something so adverse to that which is out there
The media.
in the media and in the minds of a lot of people.
Well, you know you're preaching to the choir there. I mean, you guys know Farrakhan. You did not know Imam Muhammad. So when I wrote after the Million Man March, and I have to confess I wouldn't do this today, but during the time of the Million Man March, we did a very neat thing at the Palm Beach Post. I wrote a column about why I wasn't going. My good friend, Rick Christie, Christian, still at the Post, was business editor then, wrote about why he was going. And I understood this. Rick did not experience what I did growing up in the big cities of U.S. Rick's from here.
Of peace, and Muhammad preached peace and tolerance and respect for other religions, and let's just live in harmony. Is it just the media that is not allowing us to know that people like you are trying to put that negative connotation down, or is something actually being done for the 10% that we do read about, that is that negative faction that's doing all of the terrorism and stuff like that?
I can't see it as 10%. I mean, I think worldwide, and I mean, I could dig up the latest stat. I saw an estimate of 236,000 worldwide extreme, violent, murderous terrorists. And we know we have a lot of extremists. I don't even think that is 10%. But I do think part of...
We have them too.
Well, we know we all do. I think right now it's the time when Muslims are the focus for this particular issue. And 9/11, I think, begs that happen. And particularly because Americans don't have the information I tried to just share. And I can't give it all in an hour we have together. What I found in the Pastor Jones situation was First of all, Americans who knew nothing about Muslims or little about Muslims, or even who bought into the stereotypes about Muslims, Americans said it's vile to burn another person. After 9/11, the very weekend after 9/11, I wrote a long piece. They gave it the headline, at length, Muslims in America made to feel at home, or something to that effect. And I talked about what it was like traveling. First of all, I talked about imagining, the line I used was, imagine what Manhattan smells like today. And I went on to talk about traveling that weekend with a name like Hanif to my uncle's wedding. My uncle was about 57 years old, getting married for the first time. And at the family reunion every summer at Druid Hill Park in Baltimore, I had promised I'm coming back for your wedding, and his wedding turned out to be that weekend. And by then, planes were allowed back up, and I'm traveling there, and I'm meditating on all this and the horror of it all, and thinking about the fact that how far we had come as Muslims in America. So yeah, we've got our nut jobs, and then we've got our extreme murderous thugs. What needs to be understood is they don't follow. I mean, if you're gonna kill innocent Muslims, to me, by definition, you're not a Muslim. If you're acting contrary,
Say that again, please.
if you're going to kill innocent Muslims, I'm not talking about all the other people you murdered. If you're going to kill innocent Muslims, to me, by definition, you're not a Muslim. If you act contrary to the book of guidance for Muslims, by definition.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Tony? So the media didn't really cover the Gainesville reaction to the spook up there. You know, I went to the Gainesville papers, and almost every religious leader in Gainesville got together to speak out against this guy. And is there a similar thing going on with like what's going on in Saudi Arabia or Iran with the stonings and stuff? Are there Islamic religious leaders speaking out against this?
I'll try and wrap it up.
When you can stay about a month.
Yeah. I'll try and wrap it up. So one of the things you can go to this link of Muslim condemnations of 9/11. And at this website, the gentleman, whoever wrote it, said, in the aftermath of the violence and horror of 9/11, criticisms were made that Muslim leaders and organizations were not outspoken enough in denouncing acts of terrorism. Muslims are constantly perplexed by this accusation, as we heard and continue to hear nothing but unequivocal, unified condemnations by leaders of our community, both in the United States and worldwide. But for some reason, people are not listening. And then he goes on to list, I would say hundreds, Saudis.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. That was really very, very informative, and thank you so much.
Tony, would you pray us out? Our and gracious Father, we thank you for this time together this morning in an act of solidarity between our Muslim brothers and our Christian family. And we include all races and denominations in that. Open our hearts and our minds that we might be more receptive to the ideas and practices of other people, that we can incorporate them into ourselves. America has always been a melting pot for all nations, and it is our ability to get along together, not our individualism, that makes us so special.